Hello, you're listening to Mike Madden on the Art Show podcast. Here you will find interviews with authors, musicians, artists and anyone else in and around the arts. Some of the interviews are taken direct from the Art Show on Expat Radio, with one or two specials in between. This episode features Jane Ayres talking about writing retreats, her blog and her cookery. It was originally broadcast on Expat Radio on the 25th of March 2019. Due to licensing restrictions, we were unable to play the songs from the original broadcast. Hello, this is Mike Madden on Expat Radio, and my next guest is a woman of very many talents. So welcome to the show, Jane Ayres.
Hello.
Now, you've had a mention on one of our shows before when we spoke to Maddie Please a few weeks ago. So I'm going to start there because you and her have got quite a long history together. But more recently, you've been doing writing retreats together. So just explain to our listeners how you go about putting one of those writing retreats together.
Okay, right. Well, in fact, I was away on one last week in Mid Wales, and very successful it was too. We do two sorts of writing retreats. One is for people such as Maddie and others who are already published writers and just need somewhere quiet to go and write. And then we also do coached writing retreats where we invite an author in residence to come and teach workshops. They're very good fun because we often get people who are new to writing or haven't done an awful lot, and they're full of enthusiasm, and they learn a lot and we learn a lot from them, and so that's very satisfying to do. So sometimes it's word of mouth, sometimes we advertise in a writing magazine and online, Facebook, the usual social media. They're small groups. You can't have too many at one of these things because we go and rent a house, and probably half a dozen is about right. More than that, and it starts getting a bit unwieldy, to be honest.
Yeah, and do you kind of have a set schedule for them? So you might have one in March, another one in April, or is it just sort of on demand almost?
Well, it can be, but to be fair, we generally go in the spring and the autumn, if only because accommodation is so much cheaper at that time of year. It's quite hard to find a house that's got 6 bedrooms or 7 bedrooms, and in high season it's prohibitively expensive because a lot of these houses are actually designed for 20 or more people, in which case they're a great bargain, but if you're only going to put 7 people in there, it becomes much too expensive. And so on cost alone, it's better to go at that time of year. But also, it's quite nice because it's a time when our people that are on the course are not bound up with school holidays and enormous amounts of gardening and whatever. So it's a slack time for everybody at that time of year. So it's works quite well for us.
Yeah, and I guess the activity of writing, you do need to have a certain amount of seclusion, a certain amount of peace and quiet. So finding a house that's not only got the right number of bedrooms, but has also got a sort of areas to sit and wander around in and rooms to just be sort of almost alone.
Absolutely. We're looking for somewhere that's got nooks and crannies, a little writing desk here or a window with a nice view there, somewhere that people can go and be quiet. Because I think Maddie already said on your previous show that writing's quite a lonely business. You do it on your own. And so people do spend a lot of time by themselves, and it's nice for them to come together. But there's nothing more irritating than going on a writing retreat and having to sit round a table all together while somebody's clicking their pencil against their teeth or running up and down asking people if they want cups of coffee and things. People like to be still and go away and be quiet with their thoughts and then come together. So if we're doing a workshop, that's different. We need to all get round the table. But for people who just want to write, they really want to be secluded, and it's got to be somewhere lovely and cosy with some nice soft cushions or a cute desk or something. That's really what people are looking for, and nothing else to do really. That's the other thing. I think when we're all in our own homes, we are answering the phone, walking the dog, making the lunch, answering the door, whatever. When you go away on one of our retreats, certainly we don't ask our guests to do anything at all other than enjoy their writing.
So when you have one of your retreats for new writers, what can they expect to take away from the retreat?
All sorts of things. Of course, it depends on the subject that we're working on, but new ideas, enthusiasm, and hopefully a sense of real achievement and can do. There's an awful lot of shyness about writing as well. You bare your soul rather when you write, and it can be quite daunting for people when they first start doing it publicly, if you like, reading things out to other people that they may not know, or that they do know. That's probably even more scary, isn't it?
Yes.
And accepting critique, not criticism. I don't think we like to criticise people. We do like to critique because that's the way that you learn, is by other people saying, "Well, that was nice, but you used the word shoe 5 times in the first 2 sentences. Maybe you could have said footwear or something else,
Yeah.
So those kind of things, that's oversimplifying it. But mostly, I mean, I know that when I was attending rather than running them, that I would be absolutely fired up with the desire to write when I got home. Lots of new ideas, and if only I'd thought of that. And if you've got somebody good, and we nearly always do have, real top class people doing our retreats, as the authors in residence, they can point to things that our attendees can improve on and go away and have a go at. It's great fun.
Yes, it's interesting that you talk about critique and criticism because, and also the fact that writing, people can be a bit intimidated by standing up and reading their work in front of people, but it's kind of part of the journey as far as I think that if you can stand up in front of half a dozen people and read out your work, just the very act of doing that gives you some confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't make anybody stand up though. We're very lazy. We always sit down. But I mean, I run a writing group, and when we first started that, people were very, very shy. But now, because they're used to doing it, they can't wait to be sharing their work. Although, sometimes they'll bring something along and say, I don't think this has worked very well. What do you think? And people will say, well, maybe it's not so good. But when you get used to doing it, it's very exciting, actually. And when you think about it, really stories, and that's what we're writing. Stories are really for listening to, aren't they? I mean, that's the original way of getting a story across, was not to write it down, it was just to tell it. And you can tell what works and what doesn't work. I mean, I tend to write comedy, so it always works well if people laugh. If you don't,
Yeah.
You're quite right.
So there's another aspect to the writing retreats which you're heavily involved in, and that's the cookery.
I love the cookery. Yeah. I mean, as I say, what we like to do is make sure that nobody has anything else to do. So the people who are doing the writing are not sitting there going, oh my gosh, it's my turn to make the dinner, and I said I would make so-and-so, and I don't remember I haven't got the right ingredients. None of that. So Maddie and I sneak about while everybody else is writing and make cakes and breads and get the kettle on and all that kind of thing. And I love cooking. I used to be a demonstrator for a cookery equipment company at one time, one of my many incarnations, which was great. I used to have to do cookery demonstrations. So that was quite fun. But, and you've got to get the food right for the company, which of course works very well if you've only got a small group. So we always say to people, what would make the retreat perfect for you? What is it that you don't want to eat? What is it that you really do want to eat? And try and work it out that everybody is satisfied in that way. It's no good making the most fabulous curry if you've got one person that doesn't like spicy food. I would never put on a meal and go, oh, well, we're all having curry, but you don't like it, so I've made this bland meal for you. That would be, okay, everyone gets the food, but one person feels out of the party, so I would never do that. And so if we have vegetarians, we always make sure that works for everybody.
I have a similar problem at home. I've got a daughter who's vegetarian and a son who basically eats sausages and not much else.
Well, good luck with that one.
So it's almost like a murder mystery situation, isn't it? You've got this retreat in the middle of some rural setting somewhere, and half a dozen people turn up that have never met each other and wonder what they're all doing together. But is there any sort of sense have you ever had the sense that actually this person here really knows what they're doing and they've got a lot of potential for a writer, or is everybody kind of the same when they turn up?
Well, again, it depends on what this, if we're doing a find your voice, first time writers one, generally they're pretty much the same, but you never know. We ran one in Cornwall. I don't imagine she's listening to this, and if she is, she's a fabulous writer. But we had somebody who came who was a lot younger than everybody else, and she wrote so well that we were all in awe of her. I think she might have even still been at school, and we were all, a load of old ladies just sitting there open-mouthed at the wonderful work that she produced. And yet she hadn't been doing it for very long. We'd all been sort of tapping away for years, and her stuff was so bright and exciting and new that I hope she's still writing now. I think she probably is.
I guess one of the criteria for a successful writer is that somebody's got to like it, and we're now going to go to a break with the Rezillos.
You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
So this is Mike Madden again on Expat Radio. You're listening to the Arts Show. Don't forget to visit our website, expatradio.uk, where you can find out a lot more about the station and the show itself. My guest today is Jane Ayres, and we've been talking about her writing retreats. So now we're going to move on to another aspect of her writing, and that is her Much Bickering blog.
Lovely.
It's a very entertaining read, the story of Cynthia and Crichton and Much Bickering. So, Jane, just tell us a little bit about how that started and kind of where you're going to take it.
Okay, I entered a competition, Women in Comedy Festival Writing Competition in 2017, and I won it with a letter from Cynthia and Crichton, a sort of round-robin Christmas letter, which is something I absolutely hate, round-robin Christmas letters, and it's a comedy one. And I won it. I had to go and perform it in Manchester, which was very daunting, and I had a marvellous time. It was lovely, actually, being applauded by paying customers. And I got home and carried on writing my normal stuff. And then again, because I run a writing group, each week we'll have a different topic, and it just seemed to be quite fun to write a few more things about this couple. So I think I wrote about the Christmas Carol service going wrong and various things like that. And it became almost an obsession that I wanted to know what Cynthia and Crichton were up to. So I made it into a diary, a double diary, where they get very, very drunk at New Year's Eve party, and they make a bet, £500 each, which is quite a lot of money, that they can keep a diary every day for a year. And that's basically how it all started out, that Crichton and Cynthia wrote down what they did every day. And obviously you've got two different points of view. So whatever Cynthia thinks is wonderful, Crichton may not do. And I finished it, and well, to be honest, I did try, and I submitted it for publication. I was unlucky. I had some nice feedback, but it wasn't what people were looking for. Diaries are not necessarily that mainstream. And I decided it would be a lot of fun to just put it out as a blog. So about twice a week, Cynthia and Crichton appear and tell the world what they're getting up to. So I think the last one I did, they joined a gym and getting themselves ready to go and take up yoga. So we'll see what happens to them.
So is it all written then? So you actually know what's going to happen to them, or are you making this up? Are you writing this week by week?
It's a bit of both, because I have a framework of this novel, if you like, that I've already written, but it has to fit in with what's going on in the world. And I wrote it a couple of years ago, so some of that stuff is not topical, not least the fact that they own a sausage dog that's called Brexit.
Yes, I did see that.
When I started, it was called Living with Brexit, but I think nobody really wants to live with Brexit at the moment, so it's not such a popular name. But yeah, so Brexit is very badly behaved, and he does naughty things and chews his way through the electric cables, and most of the things that happen are true. They've happened to me or my friends. I live in the countryside and in a small village, and a lot of the village life things that happen are just exaggerations of the truth. So that makes it rather fun. So if it's Shrove Tuesday, we'll have a pancake party. If it's, I don't know, if it's Mothering Sunday, well, we'll all go to church and things will happen, But it's all. I don't think it's bland, but what it isn't is it's not nasty. I think it's quite nice to make people laugh without being unpleasant. I can do unpleasant, but not on that blog.
No, it does bring to life the quintessential English village. I live in a village. It's probably a little bit bigger than what is generally considered a village, but it is still very villagey. And I think as well that one of the things that's advantage of having it in a blog is that it's brought to life by some wonderful pictures, particularly the cheese hedgehog.
Oh, the cheese hedgehog. Well, don't we miss the cheese hedgehog? I mean, in the 1970s, everybody had a cheese hedgehog, but not so much nowadays. But in Much Bickering, everybody loves the cheese hedgehog and the vol.
I also particularly like the table with all the bottles with raffle tickets on them. And it wasn't just the sort of memories from the school fete that we have here. It was also the fact that you had Cinzano on there. I've not heard of Cinzano for years.
You'd be amazed if you've ever run a tombola. You would be absolutely flabbergasted at what people give you. I haven't written about it, so I won't be giving the story about it. But we have in our village there is a bottle. We're not sure what's in it. I think it's Italian, that goes to pretty much every fete. It's those ones that sort of round at the bottom with raffia and a little stringy handle, and it used to have cellophane on it, but that's gone now. So if you win it, you dress it up with a ribbon or something new, and then you donate it back the following year. I've won it twice. So it's a little bit like the Ferrero Rocher joke that they keep sending the same box of chocolates around the village in the blog. Well, it's the same with this bottle. Yeah.
We have exactly the same thing. There's bottles that must have done them. They're vintage now.
Well, you wouldn't drink them, I'm sure, but we do check the dates on the bottles and the tins when we do a tombola. Nobody really wants smoked oysters, do they, from 1995? But we have been donated them.
So the blog is a year of Much Bickering. Is it actually going to run for a year? Can you see it going on to a second year? And do you think you'll ever sort of resubmit it in some way, shape or form for publication?
I may do. I think as far as writing, I'm very happy to go on doing it as a blog. I love doing it. I love deciding which little piece is taken out. But of course, there is a through story to it, which, again, I'm not going to give the game away. But there are lots of, we're only in March at the moment, aren't we? So there are children that are twins, Araminta and Jerome, who have little lives of their own. She's been given the great honour of an extra year at school after her A-level so that she can resit them, while her brother is up at Cambridge with his history of dance and Latin, I think his degree is going to be in. So things will happen to them and the whole family will move on. And who knows? And you never know. They might enjoy writing their diary so much that they will carry on doing it next year. But really,
maybe they get the children to start writing diaries.
Well, they might do. We don't really know yet. But I think we've all going to have to wait and see whether or not they get their £500 each back from Bunty from their bet at the end of the year. So it's definitely going to run until New Year's Day. And then I'll see how I'm feeling after that. I might start on something new. You never know.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you run a writing group, and that's the Ross Writers writing group. Are you the sort of the linchpin of that group and do all the organisation for that as well?
I'm not sure linchpin is quite the word, but yes. Yeah, it started out where I used to go to a cafe in Ross-on-Wye with my laptop on a Thursday morning, have a cup of coffee, because that's market day, go shopping, take my laptop, have a cup of coffee and a nice cake, and sit and write for an hour or so. And the cafe that we used to meet in is no longer there, sadly, but the owners of it are now friends, and they both enjoyed writing. And our chance conversation went along the lines of, "Oh, you're a writer. That's nice. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had a writing group in Ross? Why don't we have it here? Put up a poster." The next thing I know, I'm running a writing group. And that happened, I think we're into year 3 now. So the first week, one person joined me, and then another week another person came along, and we've got about 30 people now. And we meet in the Royal Hotel and have coffee, and some people stay on for lunch. And it's a weekly meeting, which is quite unusual for a writing group. Most of them are monthly, but we're all terribly enthusiastic. And we're all good friends now. It's very, very nice. And some people are published and some people are just starting out. We have a lady who writes very funny poetry, another lady who always writes memoir. And, it's a good mix and it's tremendous fun.
And one of the recommendations that we regularly get from our authors who come on the show is writing groups. They're even for the published authors, it's such a benefit to their writing to be able to join in with a writing group.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I was so keen to do it, because I had some advice from somebody that says, you go to a writing group. There wasn't one. But they always say if you want to write, you need to read. And although, the person who we are critiquing at that particular time is getting the benefit of other people's thoughts, actually learning to critique somebody else's work and read it in that way is a tremendous way of learning how to write better for yourself. So everybody's a winner.
And do you find that the size of the group has become sort of almost counterproductive? Because if I stood up in front of half a dozen people, it's kind of intimidating. If I have to stand up in front of 30 people, it's kind of shaking at the knees time.
No, well, to be fair, not everybody comes. We have a sort of hard core of about, now let me think, how many did we have yesterday? I think we only had about 10 of us yesterday. So if we all turn up, for instance, we've got a writing workshop coming up next month with lovely Debbie Alper. And everyone will end up coming, I'm sure, to that. But not everybody comes to every meeting. And in fact, one or two of them have moved abroad now. But they still submit. We have a Facebook page, a private group. And we have a lovely man who lives in Sicily, another lady who's moved to Cyprus, another one in Portugal. And they still send their work and we critique online with each other, and that's quite fun as well. So, but yeah, I don't think it would make a lot of difference actually, because we all know each other now. 30 people in the bar of a hotel expounding their work might be a bit over the top for other people, but
yes, you might be asked to leave at some point.
Yeah. Well, we have done readings and things, and I think people do find that a bit daunting, because that's, people have paid to come in, but
Now, going back to your own writing, I know that you write comedy and you also write flash fiction. So what are the outlets for that?
Well, for flash fiction, massive. If you want to compete online, there are so many competitions. 500 words, 300 words. I think I won a competition once with 10 words. I can't actually remember what they were now. But there's all sorts.
I think I saw that one. It was something like It's Not the End of the World. What would happen if I click here? If I press this button or something like that.
I've forgotten that one. That was rather good, wasn't it? I didn't realise you'd researched me so carefully. But yeah, I think that's a really good way for people to start out as well. I mean, there are people who do nothing but flash fiction, but I think you can get very wordy and descriptive, and that's lovely at times, but you can have a bit much of it. And I think one of the things that our group has focused on to start off with, because we had a lot of new writers, was to actually reduce what you've written. You can write a story and it's 1,000 words, but actually, if you then distill it into only 500, you've still got the same lovely story, but it's brighter and stronger. And I think that's a really good thing. So lots of our group enter competitions and have been successful. So, yeah.
So I think it's a very good point that people can get a little bit wordy. And if you follow the accepted rules of writing, that can take you down the wrong road. I know, when you read novels now from published authors, established authors, they don't really follow all the rules.
Well, that's true. There's some fantastic reads out there on the shelves of bookshops that don't follow the rules, and I don't think that really matters. But I'm pretty sure that if Dickens turned up with one of his these days, they wouldn't take it, sadly. You can have too much of a good thing. People don't want those kind of stories, I don't think, at the moment. Okay, yes, the old established classics, yes, they do. But for new books, people want something with some pace and a bit of white space on the page as well, I think.
I think flash fiction is a great outlet, as is your blog. So we're running out of time now. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. The time has flown by. So just tell our listeners where they can find out a little bit more about you, your writing retreats, and of course your blog.
Right, okay. Well, the writing retreats come under the auspices of The Place to Write. Sadly, my website is in a terrible state of disrepair at the moment, but it's there, but it doesn't have any current information on it, I'm sorry to say. But we have a Facebook page, The Place to Write. On Facebook and Twitter, we have me, I'm Jane Ayres, and my blog is A Year of Much Bickering. And I hope people will read it and enjoy it.
Yeah, I certainly have become a fan. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for me. It's been tremendous fun.
And I love to read blogs like this, and we're going to play out with T-Rex and I Love to Boogie.
You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
You've been listening to the Arts Show podcast with Mike Madden. Come back soon for more artists, authors, musicians and anyone else connected with the arts. We're going to play out with Mike Sanchez and I Don't Stand a Chance.
And baby, you hiding something that you don't want me to know. Because I'm getting a vibe from way down the side, like you're just about ready to go. And you can't tell me where you stayed last night. You just can't cope with treating me right. I'm on the road to heartbreak. Now's the time to tell me so. Because I'm getting a chill, like I'm gonna be ill. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know when I can't make you dance. Well, I said goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. Now's the time to tell me so. Because I'm getting a chill, like I'm gonna be here. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. No, I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know when I can't make you dance. Well, I'll say goodbye. Find yourself